He said, I only want you to tell from when I met your father to when we were on the trip together. So that's what we told. And he also was a psychology major. He studied it, and he would tell me that he would say things just to push my father's buttons to see how he would react. Because he said, I never met anyone like your father before. So some things he might have said or done, maybe he didn't really say or do outside of that, but he told my father. So I just put in what he told my father and me. And then we have it. But their stories all got corroborated, and he approved everything that was going to eventually be in the script.
Now, Dr. Shirley or your father, they died months apart.
Yeah, just by coincidence.
So their family or Dr. Shirley didn't get to see this beautiful story. I mean,
right. They didn't. Each one of them didn't get. But Dr. Shirley, I didn't know about his family, and I got criticized for that too. At the time, I didn't know about his family because in 1991, when he told me, don't ever talk to my family, I mean, he could have 10 brothers, 2 brothers. The only brother he had mentioned was once, so he told my father, yeah, I got a brother somewhere. So I never, at that time, there was no looking anyone up on the internet. But even years later, when I was closer to making the movie, I didn't look up his family because he told me not to do that. I mean, you know that. You're from New York. If I say to you, I don't want you to do this, but you can tell my story, but you give me my word. Don't talk to my family. Don't make it until after I die.
Done.
What would you do?
Done.
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 You give your word. You're a stand-up guy.
Done.
Right? So I gave the man my word. I waited till after he passed away. He didn't want it in there. Anything done till after that. And I also didn't reach out to anyone because that's what he asked me to do.
Did the family come out after the movie was released? Or?
Family came out afterwards. There was a lot of press about it saying I didn't do my due diligence. I didn't talk to them, which again put me in an awkward position because he told me not to talk to them. And what more due diligence could I do than talk to the man himself? So I did as much due diligence as I could do. But you got to remember, this happened in 1962-63. I talked to him about it in 1990-91. I didn't start making the movie, start even writing the script with Peter Farrelly and Brian Curry till 2015. This is, 50 years. I didn't know. I didn't look up the family because the family couldn't have told me anything about the trip, and I told them I wouldn't look up the family. So they were upset, and I felt bad about that. But then they, they said some kind of hurtful things I didn't think were necessary, but there's nothing I could do about it. That's what I said. I promised the guy I wouldn't talk to them. But they reached out to them. They invited them to screenings. They even pre-screenings before the movie came out in New York. They invited them. They said, would you like to see it? And even though you're hearing about some of the family that were mad, there was a lot of family members and friends that said, this is beautiful. It's exactly how he was. You guys captured it perfectly. I remember that trip. Some people remembered it. And so I think for the most part, most of them were happy. There were a few that weren't, but...
You're not going to make everybody happy.
Well, of course.
At the end of the day,
no,
nobody's going to be happy.
Well, we tried to make... Listen, Mahershala's portrayal, beautiful, beautiful man, beautiful portrayal of the guy, a genius. I think we showed him in showing what a genius he was. Listen, no one would even know his name right now. No one would know who he is. No one would know about the Green Book. So it wasn't a biopic of Don Shirley. It was a little slice of life, a little portion of his life, like my father, a little portion of his life. And everyone took great care. Peter Farrelly, everyone, from when we wrote it to producing it to Pete directing it and to Mahershala portraying him. I think it was a beautiful job. The guy is known. People are downloading his music. I mean, he was sort of one of those lost guys that in his time he was known, but he wasn't like a big name outside of the jazz world and in that classical sort of world. So I'm glad his name is out there. People know who he is. They know his music. They know what the Green Book is. And we made the movie's not that bad. It won Best Picture, so we didn't do that bad.
I think it was a tremendous movie. In a world where I like certain fucking movies, Nick, I don't go see everything. I don't want to see the Avengers. I don't want to see a lot of shit. I don't want to see remakes. I'm done. I'm 56. I've seen it all. I've seen the good ones and the bad ones. And once you're in a movie, you see behind the curtain why a movie's made.
No capes. You don't want to see any capes.
No capes, yeah. No capes, no nothing. So to me, that movie, it came somewhere where where I've been. I was telling people here that sometimes I say the word Arab or whatever. When I was in college, my tutor was Mohammed Zabib. He would come to my house. I would go to his house. He would tell me about their culture. So whatever the fuck you say, it doesn't really matter because I know the truth. They're sweet people. So we've all gone through that transition where we prejudge somebody.
Yes.
The way your family did it was hilarious in the movie because that's the way every family was.
Sure.
Fuck, the two glasses. I saw crazy as shit.
Yes.
I saw crazy as shit.
I to me, it reminded me of just like there's movies used to have like a point. Now like a lot of movies out there are just like even I like action movies, but there's not. It's just it's a fun 2 hours where stuff blows up, and I like something where you learn something, you get like you learn about that time, you learn about like I'd heard about something like the Green Book, but seeing them go to the bar when he gets drunk and the guys are beating him up, I'm like, wow, that. And then the scene that I really liked was when the car broke down and the guys were working in the field. I was like, wow, that.
Those are the scenes that they mean something. Look at when you watch Rocky, you feel something.
Right.
There's certain movies you watch, you don't feel dick.
Well, that's what I wanted to do.
I felt something when I watched your movie.
I wanted to make a movie that people felt something, and that. I made a lot of crap before that, but you try, I was kind of in the minor leagues of movie making lots of independent movies, never having enough money, whatever the excuses are. But I always wanted to make those type of feel-good movies, like Frank Capra movie or, The Bicycle Thief or a Walt Disney movie, movies that make you feel. There's room for everything else. I love action movies. I like superhero movies if they're good. Whatever it is, if it's entertaining, I think there's room for everything. But when I talked to Brian Curry about it to bring him on to write with me, and then we went to Pete, we all, wanted to make a movie that touched people. We're not solving racism. It's just a slice of life, but there's a little hope at the end of it. And it's a story about human beings. I never thought about black and white. I just thought it was about two people, and that's how you should look at it. So I think, like I said, we were very meticulous about the script. And then when Pete's direction was impeccable, I mean, he should have been nominated for Best Director. That to me is a travesty. How does a movie get nominated for Best Movie? Would it direct itself? You know what I mean? I feel the same way about Bradley Cooper. He should have got nominated for Best Picture. The movie's a Best Picture. That should be a thing. If it's a Best Picture, the director should be nominated. Nothing against the other guys that got nominated. But how is Pete Farrelly not nominated when his movie wins Best Picture? Something wrong there. But my point is, Pete did a hell of a job. We all cared about it. And it's filled with, I think there's a truthfulness to it, despite what some people think. All those little incidents really happened. The only creative license we took was it happened over a 1.5 year period. We moved them around. Pete wanted to concentrate it, so we did it in that 2-month period before Christmas. Right. But that's, it's not, it all actually happened. We just took all the best stories and put them together. And we knew, okay, this is a true story, and I think that's why it resonates. That's why you feel something, because it's not a bunch of garbage. It's not a lie. You're feeling these things happen. These people really were affected, and there's criticism. Oh, all of a sudden, Tony Lip's character turns around in 2 months. Well, it wasn't 2 months. It was always a period of time. But yes, he did turn around. He changed his life, how he raised us, how he treated other people. I was happy I was able to get that story at the screen. And
the one I didn't understand, the one that fucked with me a little bit was funny and sad at the same time. Not even funny is when he straight out and he caught him at the Y, or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be.
Right.
You and I both know at that time period, people like you and me would have been shocked. Like I would have been shocked. Your dad didn't really judge him at that period.
No.
At that time, he just walked out of there. Did your dad tell you the story? The doctor tell you the story?
They both did.
And
the thing was, that's why even, life is complicated and people are complicated. So, the word racist, I guess it means one thing to a lot of people. So you see something like the glasses at the beginning, that's a racist MFer, But again, and this is I don't like give. There's no excuses, but one thing or how a person is doesn't mean he's completely one way or has a bad heart or he has a. He wasn't a racist in the sense he wasn't walking around with a hood in his head. He was a people person. He loved people, human beings, and he didn't really judge people. Like my whole life, we were around all kinds of people, and he loved other people's cultures and food and how they laughed, how they danced. It didn't like how they dressed. He would love it if he saw something. It didn't matter if you were black, white, Jewish. So even though in the culture, and you know, growing up in New York and stuff, there were tribal groups, but everyone stayed with their own kind. But my father, once he mixed with people, he treated them all the same, and he brought us up to do that. So in that particular sense, like he says in the movie, I've been around nightclubs all my life. I know it's a complicated world. He's done and seen everything in the city, right? He's in nightclubs. He was working at the Wagon Wheel and the Peppermint Lounge. He grew up knocking guys out. He was all over the place. He saw it all. So he said he knew when he met Don Shirley. He says, I knew he was gay when I met him. I didn't care. What do I care? It was his business. Nothing to do with me. He was a nice guy to me. Treated me fantastic. So I was there to protect him, and I protected him. And I'm not there to judge him what he wanted to do or what he didn't want to do, but I didn't want him going out without me because I didn't want him getting beaten up. I don't want him getting arrested. I was trying to, in those days, he says it in the movie, you know what would happen if this got out, your career and everything? Because they were judged for that. So he's had a good heart with people, even though he was this rough and tumble guy. And that's what that scene was about, and it really happened. So we put it in.
Has there been any thought to making a television show just so you could go a little bit more in depth into some of the stories?
It's never really come up. You got some cash. You want to fund it?
I'll be a very small investor.
It's just, how many scripts did you write before this?
Oh, I had a lot of independent movies. I mean, that were made. First movie was a movie called Deadfall with Nick Cage, Michael Biehn.
We're going in like fucking Marines. You understand me?
Welcome to church, motherfucker.